Hello. Okay, we're back.
Hello,
Hello. Okay. I forgot. How do I call you? How do I call you?
Kerem.
Kerem. Okay, Kerem. What would you like to talk about today?
Uh, First of all, hello, Brian. Actually, I don't think about so much, but we can talk about the differences between our countries and lifestyle and also different things.
Okay. Well, backing up here, what are you doing on Cambly? Is it like business English? Maybe just personal development? Do you have to take an IELTS test? Anything like that? Is there any specific
Actually,
purpose?
actually, my specific purpose is to develop my practice, practicing
Hmm.
my conversational English,
Hmm.
especially because I'm working for an international company, and also in the future, one of my aim is
Hmm.
to relocate to a foreign country to work. So
Hmm.
I thought that if I use Cambly to make practice,
Hmm.
then I could develop my speaking English. That's why I'm
Okay.
here. And almost 1.5 months I used Cambly, and I think it helps.
Okay, excellent. Well, nice to meet you. Okay, well, we'll just have conversation then. So I'll introduce myself. My name's
Okay.
Brian. I'm originally from the United States,
Mhm.
or America, if you want to call it that. But actually, I live in Indonesia. I
Mhm.
Right now I live in the capital, Jakarta, the capital of
Mhm.
Indonesia. I've been living here for about 3 years consecutively, but 4 years altogether.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's my story.
What do you do for living in Indonesia?
Well, I mean, I do a lot of work, but mostly it's teaching
Mhm.
various skills, mostly in English or business skills. I also do writing. So I'm a freelancer. I do a lot of work, and I do a little bit of work on Cambly as well.
Okay, perfect. What Indonesians speak? Their
They
original language?
speak the national language. There are a lot of languages here, but the national language is called Bahasa Indonesia. A lot of people here, when you're speaking English, when you refer to it, people refer to it as Bahasa, which is it's an Austronesian language. So it's like it's related to Tagalog, which is in the Philippines, and also Malagasy, which is in what is that?
Malaysia.
Madagascar.
Madagascar.
Madagascar, and also Malaysian is almost the same thing. What they speak in Malaysia and Indonesia is very similar.
What kind of letters they use?
Well, they use the Roman script.
Roman script.
So
Okay.
same thing like Vietnamese is another Asian language. They also use the Roman script. Tagalog as well. They use the Roman script. So yeah, it's pretty easy to read and write. Makes it easier.
Okay. Almost all of the world transformed to Roman script.
Yeah. Before they used a couple different scripts. They used something called the Jawi script, which was
Mhm.
based off of Arabic because it's a Muslim country, so they used that.
Mhm.
But then when it was a Dutch colony, and there were a lot of different people in Jakarta, where I am now, a lot of Chinese and other people, and so to simplify it, the Dutch used Roman letters, just like in the Dutch language, and so that's
Mhm.
how that started.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in Uzbekistan
Mm-hmm.
uh, 5, 6 years ago, maximum. And at that time, they are trying to transform their alphabet
Mm-hmm.
from Kirill to Roman script, from Kirill to
Okay. Yeah.
Latin alphabet,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then it's I think much more easier to understand because the language of Uzbeks use similar words with Turkish.
Mm-hmm.
Our sources the same. We are coming from the same race, and we use very common words and sentences. But in Turkey, we use Roman alphabet, Roman script, and they used to use Kirill alphabet because of Soviet Union and Russian connection. But now they are trying to transform their alphabet to Roman script. When I was there, when I read something while walking on the street, like a billboard, I almost understand the sentences. When you understand 3 or 4 words from a whole sentence, you can guess, you can imagine what they wanted to say. So some of countries trying to change their system. And I also heard about some colonies using British unit systems, trying to change their also system to metric in all of the world to be a part of major group. But I'm sure England and United States probably won't be able to change their system to metric.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. It would probably make a lot more sense. Because I'm an American and I prefer using the metric system. Although I still prefer using Fahrenheit over Celsius. I think Fahrenheit is a better indicator of temperature.
Oh, I never understand Fahrenheit. We use in Turkey Celsius, and it is much more easier for us.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I find that I prefer. Yeah, Americans are stuck in their ways. Americans are stuck. They still use pounds, miles, teaspoons, tablespoons, all that stuff. Whatever.
Yes, it's habit. It's not easy to change their habit.
Yeah,
I can understand. Once I heard, I don't know is it true or not, but I heard that England wanted to change their traffic system. You know, they use the left side of the road, but they thought that they should change it to adapt all the other world. But then they thought that it might cause so many accidents, so they canceled this idea. But I don't know, is it true or just a rumor?
It's probably a rumor because a lot of the world drives on the left. Even in Indonesia, people drive on the left.
Yes, I read an article about it. As known, opposite of the as known, almost half of the world use left side. Yes, using right side is a little bit more than using left side, but it's something like 55 to 45 or 60 to 40, not more.
Yeah, because of India and all the British colonies.
Yes, Japan also. I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know. China is using left or right.
One really interesting thing about Indonesia is it was briefly a British colony. And when it became British in Jakarta, the main colonial center, the British forced everyone to drive on the left, and it stayed that way. But when the Dutch took it over and laid track for trains, they had the trains drive on the right. Yes. And it still is that way. So when you take a train, the train drives on the right, but you drive a car or motorbike on the left. It's very funny.
Yes.
It's very, very fun. No one's changed it. It's the way it is.
It depends who managed the system.
Yeah.
You know, for example, when I saw this system, shipping business, generally opposite of almost all vehicles in sails or in ships or in vessels, the main drive wheel is generally used at the right side. Not in the middle or in the left. Generally, they prefer to use, but it's in all over the world. But last 10 years or more than 2 decades, I saw that the new vehicles on the sea uses driving wheels in the middle, not in the left or in the right.
Interesting.
So it's changeable. It's changeable. There is no only one standard for it. It depends to the country's system.
Okay. So tell me about where you're from.
I'm from Turkey, Istanbul.
Yeah.
I also live in Turkey and working in sales business. I'm running a team whose main focus to sell air condition systems. And in Indonesia, as I know, air condition is so popular almost everywhere. Use air conditioning systems, and they are very close to China, so they use so many Chinese brands because Chinese is very important air conditioning producer.
Actually, Daikin right now, the major air conditioner is Daikin. I don't know if that rings a bell. Daikin, have you heard of that?
Daikin.
Yeah.
I think you're right, wrong. It should be something like this. It's a Japanese brand. Very, very, very famous in the world. And almost in all of the countries, they are trying to be number one in the market share. But they have also facilities in China, and they have some cooperation with Chinese companies. And Daikin is one of the most important also refrigerant producer, not only air condition product, the refrigerant, the gas inside the air condition. They are also an important producer. And I don't know, in Indonesia, maybe Daikin is number one in Indonesia, but I don't know.
Well, Panasonic is also popular. I think it's Panasonic. But I see Daikin a lot.
Well, what about Midea?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Really?
Midea,
it's a huge Chinese producer. Or this one, Gree.
Gree. I think I've heard of Gree.
Gree is number one producer of China, and Midea is number two. But for international sales, Midea is number one. And together, Gree and Midea almost produced 65% of all world.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Almost.
Okay.
They also work with Japanese companies. For example, Gree and Daikin has some cooperation in China, and in Gree's factory, they are producing some products for Daikin, as I know. So the brand is Daikin, Japanese, but the main product source is China, the factory of Gree. Also, as I know, Midea is produced air condition systems for Bosch, German brand. They produce also for Toshiba, it's a Japanese brand. So as a producer, not the brand, as a producer, Gree and Midea together almost produce 60-65% of all world. But as brands, Gree and Midea together in all of the world, maximum 20-25%. Just my forecast, just my guess.
Interesting. Okay. So what is your business plan right now? You want to set up a business in Asia or get a job as a sales consultant? What's your
I'm a managing director of a group company, Turkish branch, and we are trying to distribute. We are trying to build our distribution network in Turkey for air conditioning business. It's a very new company in Turkey. Last 3 years ago we built, and now we have a good reputation and brand awareness in our market. My personal aim is after that point setting up all system and let them to go, and for myself I would like to forward my career to another foreign country, especially in Europe.
Oh, okay.
So I would like to challenge myself, force myself to see how I can do or not in totally different industry and in totally different country. But first of all, I need to find a job and I need to find a company who support me about to get living and working permit. This is so important because we are not a member of European Union. So if you want to live or if you want to work in a European country, you need to have a sponsorship from a company or from the country you would like to go, the government. So it's not so easy, but at the same time, I'm running my company. I'm trying to win lots of gold medals with a good success stories. But at the same time, I am looking for opportunities in Europe.
Okay. Okay. So what difficulties do you think you'll encounter?
Excuse me?
What difficulties do you think you'll encounter in terms of getting this business started in Europe?
First of all, the most important thing, even my skills and language abilities match the position. The main problem is getting the working and living permission, because it takes time. Even the government lets you to do this. It takes time, and most of the companies doesn't want to spend extra money for it and doesn't want to wait 3-4 months for you. So some companies have these kind of programs could support you, but most of the companies prefer someone who has already working and living permit in the country, in that country. This is the most difficult thing. And the other one, that they should trust you, trust your education, because Turkey is at the edge of Europe and at the edge of Middle East. So if you don't know enough information about Turkey, sometimes people can think about Turkish people's education is not enough, or Turkey is a country like a Middle East country, so they cannot speak in English, or they cannot able to match this position. It is difficult to break their concerns, to convince them to trust you. And this is the second, I think, most difficult thing. But if you are an open-minded person and the company is trying to find good skills, good talented people, I have so many friends managed to go Europe. So it's not impossible. Okay, it's difficult, but not impossible.
Okay. So let's talk about Istanbul, where you're currently living. Are you a native of Istanbul? Is this like your hometown?
No. Almost nobody's hometown is Istanbul. It's like New York.
Yeah.
Everybody comes from somewhere. Everybody. So even someone says Istanbul is my native city, probably he doesn't have enough information about his past. Maybe his grandfather immigrated to Istanbul from somewhere different city from Turkey, and he doesn't know enough information. So he knows that his father born in Istanbul, he born in Istanbul. So he thought that he was native in Istanbul. But generally, there are very, very few people live in Istanbul more than 4 or 5 generations. Very few. So nobody is native. I'm from Black Sea side of Turkey, north of the Turkey. And my family relocated to, first of all, Aegean, coast of Aegean. Then I grew up there. When you check my ID card, it was written, I am from a city from Black Sea, but my feelings, my education, my background, and my habits is half Black Sea, half Aegean.
Okay. Okay, so you're saying that Turkey is kind of like, there's like 2 different parts. You said Black Sea.
Several different parts. Black Sea Middle inside, Asian, Mediterranean at the south, and Far East. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can say the Marmara region, the Istanbul place, and the Thrace area. Six different regions, 6 different people's habits and lifestyle.
Okay. So let's go to Istanbul. How long have you been living in Istanbul?
Oh, I came to Istanbul while I was going to middle school at the age of 11 or 12. Then I went back to Izmir, then came back to Istanbul for university, and then continue. So consecutively, I've been in Istanbul more than, I think, 20 years.
Okay, good. So you've probably seen Istanbul change drastically. Okay.
Domestically.
I'm assuming. So what have been some of the changes you've seen over the years? Or maybe Istanbul hasn't changed. I mean, I don't know. How would you describe Istanbul over the past 20 years?
Yes, well, there is also, obviously, there is a change. There was a change. First of all, the population increased a lot. Always Istanbul was the most crowded city of Turkey, but last 20 years, especially increasing the construction industry, population increased enormously, traffic has increased, traffic increased a lot. You cannot stand over traffic. 20 years ago, there were some rush hours. For example, in the morning and in the evening, before starting the job time and the end of job time. But now, almost in the middle of 3 a.m., midnight, there is traffic.
Really? Yes. There's always traffic. It just never ends.
There's always traffic, always crowded. Always, when you check the digital map from your mobile phone, it's always red.
Never ends.
Never ends.
Always
so
there. Never
this
ends.
Is the most important changes. But at the same time, now we have metro network, underground subway network. So it's much more easier to go from somewhere to somewhere by subway.
Okay. So, I mean, is the public transportation reliable, or is it still kind of ineffective?
No, it is reliable and effective, and also it is progressing right now. They are building new lines. They are adding new networks to this public transportation. The municipality works very, very good right now and try to develop our public transportation system. You know, Istanbul is built on 2 continents, Asia and Europe. So we have a Bosphorus, and crossing Bosphorus is very important because generally people lives in Asian side and works in European side. So it is so important to travel between 2 continents, and the municipality is trying to develop this with ferries, with undersea tunnels, with bridges, with subways, and municipality bus stations, and it is progressing at the moment.
Okay.
It's a living organism. It's like a living organism, not a stable thing. They always try to make better.
Okay.
What about Indonesia? Is there any traffic problem in Indonesia, in Jakarta?
Oh, Indonesia's famous for having bad traffic. I wouldn't say it's all hours of the day, but it's pretty bad. But the thing is with Indonesia is there are a lot of motorbikes, and that's also Southeast Asia. Indonesia probably has more motorbikes than any other country on earth. But if you want to get somewhere, you take a motorbike because the roads are very narrow. So it's very difficult to take a car. It's really, the thing is the city, Jakarta is really not that big. So if you want to go from place to place, you can do a lot of walking. I mean, it's also very walkable.
What's the population?
Population of the city is like, people aren't even sure because there's so many people that are living here, but they have a different ID. So they estimate that it's about 15 million that live in the city, and the metro area is probably about 30 million. So there's actually the extra, like the superimposed metro area is probably about 50 million. So there's probably about 50 million people living in Metro Jakarta.
Oof, it's huge.
It's a huge population. Huge. But like I said, huge. Just the city is probably about 15.
Twice more than Istanbul. Istanbul's now population is estimated around 20 million. 20 to 25, because you know we have some Syrian immigrants also. So the official Turkish citizen results are like 18 million. But the estimation with these immigrants and the daily tourists, it's more than 22 million.
Okay.
When you compare with Jakarta, it's like a town.
Well, Jakarta is kind of like Manila. There's a lot of people and a lot of people in a small area, but it's a very exciting place. There's always something. There's a lot of development here. I mean, right now there are like, just in Jakarta, just in this city, there's like 6 or 7 malls being built on top of all the malls that already exist. I mean, everywhere you look, they're building. It's just nonstop, and it's exciting. I like it. Other people hate it, but I like it.
Why you like it?
I like it. It's exciting. It's fresh. It's new. There's always something. It's just constantly being rebuilt and reborn. Everything's constantly changing. When I go back home to America, nothing has changed. There's really not much new development. Now, maybe there's development in certain areas or certain cities. I mean, America's not dying. I mean, the country is booming, but it just doesn't have the same feeling. I guess New York City is a good example. New York City is really booming.
Okay.
So that's
maybe if about environmental concerns, people hated this construction development. Especially, I don't like. I like development of a country or a economical situation of a city, but at the same time, I would like to protect the environment. So I hate so many skyscrapers everywhere. I like much more flat buildings and green areas.
Okay. Yeah.
It depends where you look from. It depends your viewpoint.
So does Istanbul lack parks? Does it lack green areas?
Yes, but very few. Very few areas. And
so does Istanbul have like
we are trying to protect them.
So does Istanbul have something like a central park, like a major green area, open area?
No, we have some small parks. We have some small parks for each towns in Istanbul. Not like a central park. Only one big green area. We have small central parks in different centers. Istanbul is not like New York. When you say New York, everybody understands the Manhattan area. But Istanbul has different places combined together. If you come to Istanbul, I will be very appreciated to show you.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be cool. Jakarta. Yeah, it's about halfway. Istanbul's about halfway between where I live now and going back home to the United States. I go back in a few weeks, but I will go through Japan and go the Pacific route when I go back home.
Okay, Bryan, our time is over, and I would like to thank you for your good conversation. What do you think about my English?
Good. Just one real quick thing I was going to say, not says, but says.
Says.
And also we have said.
Yes,
said.
past tense.
Yeah, said. Okay, yeah. Some people say say. Okay. Overall, it's good. I think just need a little more practice. You were talking about doubling. The traffic has been really bad. So the traffic has increased threefold. Like 3 times, 3 or 4 times. It's increased threefold or fourfold.
Okay.
Yeah.
Threefold from a card game, I think. Threefold.
Yeah, like a card. Threefold, fourfold. It's increased many times over. Okay. Any other questions for me?
I'll message to you.
Okay, good. I'm not on Cambly very often, but if you see me, you can add me. But it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope to see you again in the future.
I hope so. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, have a good one. Bye now.